Gentle Fireside Stories with Cate Field. The Star That Fell to Earth by Cate Field. At the farthest edge of the sky, where the night is darkest and the silence most complete, a small star burned with a steady silver light. She was not the largest nor the brightest, but her glow was calm and constant, soft as breath, steady as prayer. She had been born in fire, as all stars are, and for countless ages she had watched the great wheel of the cosmos turning. She knew her place, a single point in a vast tapestry, woven among constellations, part of the music of the spheres. And yet, she watched the earth, not for its light, but for its shadows. She was fascinated by the way clouds folded over mountain tops, how branches bent in the wind, how lamplight glowed in the windows and then disappeared. Stars do not feel, they only burn. And so one night, with longing like a tide swelling inside her, she whispered into the dark, "I want to fall." The sky, ancient and watchful, heard her. A voice older than flame replied, "If you fall, little light, you will no longer be what you are. You will lose your fire. You will forget the harmony of the heavens. You will become earth." The star trembled, but she did not hesitate. "Let me fall," she said. "I would rather be held than distant. I would rather feel than shine." And with that, she let go. At first, there was only motion, pure, exhilarating, endless. She streaked through the sky like a silver arrow, trailing her light behind her like a ribbon unravelling. Below her the world turned, oceans glinting like hammered glass, forests dark with sleep, rivers winding like threads of silver under moonlight. Then came sensation. The wind rushed against her with wild fingers, tugging at her light, pulling it apart. She had never felt resistance before, never known the press and pull of air. And then, scent. The sharp breath of pine, the salt of the sea, the faint smoke of a hearth far below. Sound followed. The parting roar of wind, the hush of cloud, and then the stillness. Her light began to thin. It poured behind her, not vanishing, but transforming into warmth, into memory, into something she could no longer keep. As she passed through the final veil of mist, the silver trail wrapped around her like a shawl, and vanished. She landed not with fire, but with softness. A field of grass received her. The earth parted just slightly. There was no crater, no thunder, no mark left behind. Only a small stone nestled in the bracken, smooth, faintly warm, with the last shimmer of starlight hidden deep within. She had fallen. She had become. The morning was misty and pale. A quiet fog draped the hillside and dew clung to the grasses like tiny stars reluctant to let go. A small girl wandered the path above the meadow. She was 7 years old, slight, serious, and often lost in her own thoughts. Her teachers said she was too quiet. Her classmates found her a bit odd. She didn't mind. She liked silence. She liked the company of things that didn't speak, stones and feathers and snail shells and seed pods. She collected them in tins and matchboxes, lining them up on windowsills and under pillows. That morning, something in the air called to her. Not a sound exactly, more like the feeling you get when someone is waiting for you without knowing your name. She stepped off the path and into the long grass, boots damp with dew, heart steady. And there, half buried in moss, bracken and earth, she found the stone. It was smooth and grey, almost silver, with a soft shimmer beneath the surface, like something that had once been light and hadn't quite forgotten. She picked it up, and it fitted perfectly in her palm. It was warm. She didn't tell anyone. She simply slipped it into her coat pocket. And from that moment on, the stone never left her side. The stone lived in her pocket for years. At first it nestled among crumbs and pencils and folded notes, but it was always there when her fingers needed stillness. At school, when the noise grew too loud or the world went too fast, she would find the stone and breathe. It didn't speak, it didn't glow, it simply stayed. She carried it in her bag to university, where it lived in a desk drawer, beside dried sprigs of lavender and a railway ticket that she couldn't quite throw away. Later, in her first flat, the stone sat on her windowsill, beside a chipped mug and a growing collection of books. When she moved again, this time with her new husband, it came with her, tucked into a tissue-lined box, placed carefully on the shelf of the bookcase. Her life was busy, mornings filled with toast crumbs and music, and nights softened by stories and cups of tea left half drunk on the bedside table. Her husband was kind, the quiet sort, with clever hands and a gentle voice that always made room for silence. Together they built a life of small joys, gardens full of dandelions and washing lines, holidays in windswept cottages, and the slow, unremarkable magic of growing older, side by side. The stone remained. Their children came, a daughter with questions that never stopped and feet that danced even when she thought no one was looking, and a son who built things, models and forts and whole worlds from cardboard and string. She did not give the stone to them. It was not for that. But sometimes she would find her daughter holding it, absent-mindedly tracing its smooth surface while reading. And once she found it beneath her son's pillow after a thunderstorm. But she said nothing. Time passed again, as it always does. Her daughter left for the city, suitcase packed with books and boldness. She cried, but not where anyone could see. Her son got married in the springtime. The blossom was late that year, but it did come, and it was beautiful. She wore a soft blue dress and pinned a sprig of rosemary to her collar, and her husband squeezed her hand during the vows. The house grew quieter, but not lonely. One autumn afternoon, while looking for spare batteries in the bottom drawer of the dresser, her husband found the stone. He turned it over in his hand, frowning gently in recognition. It had been many years, but he remembered the first time she told him the story, how she had found it as a child, and how it had travelled with her, and how she had once whispered, "It's a star that fell to earth." And he smiled, shook his head slightly in that quiet way of his, and carried it back into the sitting room. Without a word, he placed it on the bookshelf, in its usual spot, between the Botanical Field Guide and her favourite book of poetry. Later she noticed it there, just where it had always belonged. She didn't say anything either. She only reached out, touched it once with the tips of her fingers, left it resting in the hush of the afternoon. It had become a still point in the flow of their days, a quiet witness to what endures. The seasons circled, and then one rainy afternoon her grandson came to stay. He was 7, quiet, thoughtful, often found tracing patterns in the condensation on the windows or asking questions about everything. While she folded laundry in the kitchen, He wandered through to the sitting room, running his fingers along the spines of books, tapping small rhythms on the window pane. And then he saw it, the stone. He climbed onto the arm of the chair to reach it, picked it up with care, and turned it over and over in his hands. His brow furrowed, not with confusion, but with a kind of recognition, although he had never seen it before. "What's this?" he asked, padding softly back into the kitchen. She folded the last sheet and looked at him for a long moment, her gaze travelling from his hand to his face. "That," she said, with a smile made of memory, "is a star that fell to earth." He didn't ask any more. He simply smiled and slipped it into his pocket. And the stone, once a star, felt the warmth of small fingers again. Nestled in the soft fabric of a child's pocket, the stone remembered. Not in words, but in sensation, the rush of wind, the hush of grass, the silence of falling. She had once burned across the sky, alone and brilliant, and now she lay in darkness, small and silent, and utterly complete. She had not needed to know the answer. She had become the answer. Not a distant light to be wished upon, but a quiet certainty, a belonging, a gift. A star no longer far away, but loved. The end. Sweet dreams.